Welcome to Can You Keep a Secret, part of the Pull Tab Sports family. Well, we got a good show today. We got, I guess, a designer, a CEO, an entrepreneur, Michael Jordan. How's that for a name? Running UNRL, the clothing brand, the independent clothing brand, and he'll be joining us. But first, Tom, how have you been? What is it accurate to say you're going through a chiropractor phase?
Yeah. I didn't realize it. A good friend of mine, Guy Whitehead from
Coctology. Cross promotion.
Yeah, I've been having a ton of problems with my neck, and it kind of went and kind of came and went, and then he's like, "You got to go check this out." So my old man, God rest his soul, was a doctor, and he was an anti-chiropractor, but I think he was always like,
How did he think of chiropractors as a doctor? Were they like snake oil salesmen, or maybe more like a kicker on the football team?
I think he had a more open mind toward chiropractors, but in the sense of if you got a real problem, you go to a doctor. And so I've gone and I like it. I mean, it's definitely helped, from a range of motion and from just kind of, because I could tell that my life was, my body was just, sorry about that, was just awful.
When was the first time you tried it? Did you do it like several years ago and now you're just trying it again?
Never. Well, one time I went and I did it one time and it was awful. You know what I mean? Like head over the table, yanking down in my head. And honestly, I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. And so now, the guys that we go to in White Bear, your neck of the woods, they've been great.
So here's what's the barrier to entry for me, and I want to see if this is true. I've always heard like the first move is like the head snap kind of situation, like Cobra Kai, strike first. What does it say? Strike first.
No mercy.
No mercy. So that whole okay, welcome to chiropractor town. Now I'm going to do the exact
weird.
same.
That's exactly what they say to me when I walk
They do say that?
Yeah.
Or village. So then they grab your head and do the same thing, which would break your head in a movie or break your neck, but then it makes you feel better.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that's helped me was the first time I went where I didn't go back was I was actually on my back when he was doing my head stuff. So it was almost like leaning my head over this bed, and now I'm on my stomach. So he's more like doing it where my head's down, so I don't feel like this, kind of almost like I'm dangling over something. And, honestly, it's crazy. Like I just go in and it takes 5 minutes. Boom, boom, boom.
And do you feel energized? You're adjusted?
I definitely feel better. It's not perfect yet. It's still I still have some issues, but what they wanted me to do is kind of go through this process, which, whatever. And then I guess I'll get down to the nitty gritty at the end where I'm only doing it maybe once or twice a month, just coming in real quick and getting an adjustment, but I'm not there yet. But yeah, it's all right.
I got to try it. Can You Keep a Secret is sponsored by Will Anderson Insurance. He does home insurance, auto, and now he does commercial insurance. So if you're listening to this pod, hearing from an entrepreneur like Michael Jordan from UNRL, you have your own business, you want to protect your business, you want to work with someone who's going to pick up their phone, going to explain it to you like it's a children's book, and basically insure you like he would insure his own family. That's Will Anderson Insurance. Nobody better. I've known him a long time, worked with him a long time. Nobody better than Willie Anderson Insurance. Home, auto, commercial. So we both have the pleasure over the next 2 weekends of attending graduations, which I think... is there anything worse than going to a graduation, like the actual ceremony?
Yeah,
of it?
It's pretty tough.
The names and the walk up and waiting for the 1 minute with your kid. Do you know who the speaker is at Penn State?
No, you know how it is at school so big. They have all sorts of different sessions.
Oh, so her smaller college will have somebody talk.
Yeah, so she goes at 1 o'clock on Saturday. We're all going in for it, with the exception of my son, who has got finals at the U. And so I think they'll have some speakers, but I think it's just session. There's not some big, arena where everybody's sitting there. Thank God, because that would take an entire day.
Yeah, we almost had a glimpse of greatness. So there was a kid at St. John's that's like the real life John Belushi. He's been there forever, older hockey player, COVID, all of the extra years, and he's just a professional college student. And I think the student body voted on the graduation speaker.
Okay.
So this kid was going to speak. Well, I mean, you could have sold tickets, right? I had no idea what he would have done. Ends up, they host the Case Day party at St. John's, and they don't want him to do that anymore because it's very complicated, and they have to have all these porta potties, and there was a bunch of public.
How does that work? Do they drink a case of beer like
in one day
in front of each other?
Yeah, in a group. So you got 24 hours. So if we started and you were being conservative, you could stay up till midnight, have 4 or 5. Yeah, you could do 1 an hour or whatever. I mean, you could have 6 after midnight and then start the next day and try to do.
Okay.
But the issue is when people do it, there's a lot of they call it public urination, but it's really just people peeing in the grass and other people seeing them.
But again, they're all in the same area.
Yes.
Like thousands of kids are sitting there trying to do a case of beer.
Yeah. And you got to have like security and porta potties.
Where do they have it? Like a field?
At a house. So they should go out to a field. So this is all going to tie together for you.
We have to film this.
We should have done a documentary, so I looked into doing a documentary. 1, everyone's too drunk.
Right.
2, everyone wants to just have fun and doesn't want to be running around with a camera. So I guess we could have like a crew do it in the future. But so this guy's house is the center point of Case Day. And the school, I think, said they either didn't want him to do it or whatever. And so he couldn't. Oh, if you did Case Day or something, if you hosted Case Day, you couldn't walk for graduation. You couldn't actually get your diploma in the official ceremony.
Wow.
And you certainly couldn't be the speaker. And so these guys talked about it, and they're like, we're good. We're doing Case Day. Yeah.
Why? What's the rationale why you can't host Case Day?
Well, that's what's interesting is my son
is there like a pagan sacrifice or something at the end?
Well, it is interesting that I don't know why you can be punished for doing something off campus that you're hosting. You've got porta potties, you've got security. I have no idea how a school's reach can say, yeah, you're not going to get to walk on graduation if you do that in the privacy of your own home. I have no idea. Maybe it's all changed by now. Maybe I'm going to get the big surprise and a guy's going to walk out in a toga and give the St. John's graduation speech. But at the moment, I've lost my the exciting part of graduation.
He sounds like he's like that Bert Kreischer or what? How do you say his last name? He's the comedian that takes his shirt off.
Maybe.
Have you heard about this dude?
No.
So he's like a super famous comedian now, right?
Okay.
It's Kreischer, I think. Bert.
Is he funny? Have you watched him?
Yeah, I think he's pretty funny. He's got this movie coming out called The Machine. So his whole shtick is this whole story of how when he was at Florida State, they went on a student trip to Russia. And I guess this whole movie's tied to this night where he got tied to Russian mafia and all this stuff. Anyway, Playboy or one of those publications came in and picked Florida State as the number 1 party school. I think that's who used to do those party school rankings. And he was picked as the number 1 partier in the country.
Wow.
When he was in college.
So this guy's a professional.
Yeah. So he was like a 6 or 7 year student.
And did he get to speak at graduation?
No, but this guy at St. John sounds like
he might
have a movie. Yeah, this is just all unraveling. But he might, this kid at St. John's might have a movie career ahead of him or a stand-up comedian.
Well, he's like he just is college. He'd be the guy in the morning. The hair is all over the place. He's got a constant 3-4 day beard. He's probably made clothing out of empty cases of beer. I mean, he's just, maybe a leopard's waking up in the bedroom. Yeah. So I really do hope he somehow gives remarks at this graduation, because otherwise, I think St. John's is going to be the whole enchilada too. I don't think they're dividing them out into like the.
How many kids?
Oh, I don't know.
1,000 plus? Has to be.
I don't even know, but it's a lot of names to read.
Well, Caitlin, when she was a senior at Stillwater, she had 900 plus kids in her class, and they did it at Roy Wilkins Auditorium, and They cranked it out like in an hour. It was like money.
That's great.
I sat down and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the longest day of my life. And we got out of there in an hour. And then Connor had the same size class. They rocked it like a military outfit. It was boom, boom, boom. And we were out, noon to 1:15. We were out of there.
That's impressive. We, you get 4 spots for the St. John's graduation. And so we invited one set of grandparents that live by St. John's. And that's not a great invite to get as a grandparent, right? Like, hey, you want to come
and sweat?
You want to come sweat?
Pass out from dehydration?
Listen to names.
Yeah.
Basically, it's almost, it's like asking, someone's going to be reading the white pages for 2 hours. Would you like to come down? And we have a chair for you. Actually, we don't even have a chair for you. We've got a bench for you. So maybe we'll get some dinner after. I don't know. But
they love that stuff. They live for that stuff.
I guess it's history being written. Can You Keep a Secret is sponsored by Duke Cannon. I know our Wild are out of the playoffs. It's sad. It's heartbreaking, actually, but some of you may have maintained your playoff beard. I hope so. If you did, get the beard washes, the beard balms, the beard oils from Duke Cannon. They'll take care of your mutton chops. They'll take care of your goatees, handlebars, whatever game you're playing, they got your back. If you're unleashing the playoff beard, do it with Duke Cannon. Hardworking products for hardworking guys. Check them out at dukecannon.com or at Target. This weekend, I'm curious if you pay any significance. So you got Cinco de Mayo landing on a Friday. Mm-hmm. Tally's is opening that day.
I just got their newsletter.
Yeah, so that's good. And then Saturday, Derby Day, fastest 2 minutes in sport.
Are you saying, am I going to wear a diaper this weekend?
This day has aligned multiple times. Sometimes you get Cinco de Mayo on Derby Day and maybe a prize fight that night or a UFC fight.
Because normally like a Canelo would have a fight on Cinco de Mayo.
It's the turducken weekend, right?
Yeah.
You get the margaritas, you slide right into the Derby Day, put on some seersucker, and then you usually get a prize fight. I don't know. I'm not following. I don't know if there's a big fight this weekend, but there should be, because this is it. But you'll be in Penn State, so
State College. Yeah, they're known for their Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, that's an important tradition.
Yeah, it's Happy Valley / Cinco de Mayo.
What would Happy Valley be? Feliz Validad?
I know. It's I might make some shirts really quick. Try to pay for the trip. Have Gina running around selling them for 2 for $20.
Unreal can make them.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Hey, just kind of working through the calendar here. Do you consider that it's spring? Like, are we out of the 8 months of hell?
No, it's so funny. I bitch about this every year, right? So I feel bad for high school kids. So every year I bitch about this. Can you imagine being a spring sport athlete?
No.
The weather sucks. And even when it does become good, it's rain, drizzle, wind, and cold. And they basically have a month from May to June to play baseball, track and field, golf, tennis. It sucks. So the answer is no. I just feel like we're in this purgatory of when it's going to be nice and stay there for at least a couple months.
You did an amazing breakdown of what it's like to live in Minnesota for me a couple times. So just walk me through it. Start with winter, and then what happens after that.
Oh, you mean it's winter, and then it's this awful shitty spring, and then you go into construction season full on. It's a nice 50 state or city tour where you basically everywhere you go, you feel like you're trapped. I feel like I get landlocked. I'm driving down dirt roads to go to places because of detours, and then it rolls into a nice frost right as you hit October with snow, and then you get back in where you don't leave the fucking house for 7 months. It's awesome. And don't forget the potholes. Don't forget those potholes, and don't forget this horrible humid weather where you're just ready to hang it up.
We just built a house, and I'm like, we built it in the wrong place. That's a bad realization where you're like, I love the house, but why did we put it in Minnesota? Maybe we can lift it.
Well, the interesting thing is I actually don't hate Minnesota, right? So people have been like, oh, if you don't like it, get out, blah, blah, blah. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong with what I just said.
Well, what you said is true, and I've lived here my whole life.
Yeah.
I wear Minnesota with pride, but it's a rugged existence.
Yeah, you have to be a tougher type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I kind of take some pride in it too, and we like living here, but
We're basically British. I want to finish on before Michael gets here. So like, you're going to be home on Mother's Day. I'm going to have the graduation on Mother's Day, which I think creates some space for me to kind of like, oh, we're going to dinner. It's a graduation / Mother's Day. So I might be off the hook. What do you do Mother's Day? Do you, is that something you tick the box on and do it well? Or if you don't, you're in the doghouse?
No, we have a weird dynamic. I don't know how you are with your wife, but the longer we've been married, the less these milestones I think mean to us. I don't know if that's good or bad, but more or less, I make sure that the kids are doing. My running joke to Gina is like, "You're not my mother." You know what I mean? So I'll hook up my mom, but these kids, you got to rely on these kids. So, but no, we try to make it a nice day for her, and she appreciates everything. It's pretty cool.
That's good. This might be our guest walking in.
It is.
Yes. Oh, hey. Nice. Perfect.
What's going on?
Come on in here. We'll actually give us 2 minutes just to close this section down, and we'll grab you.
Well, that's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
I know. So how about you? What do? You just like, you have graduation, so you're just going to...
I think I'm off the hook. Maybe, I don't know. She doesn't like breakfast. She definitely doesn't like breakfast in bed. That's like when you're like a young dad, you think they want like the kids to run up and bring them breakfast in bed. And that's like, I think that's like horrifying for a woman.
Right.
Like it's like they're making messes. They don't know what the kitchen looks like downstairs. I think bringing a woman breakfast in bed is like the same thing as like, it's as scary as clowns.
Right.
Like I think it's just like terrifying. That would be like if you just woke me up while I was sleeping, shaking me and gave me like a Father's Day gift. I think it's just as bad.
Well, that's good.
Hey, we got a couple sponsors. We got a new one, a big one, Custom One Homes. Okay. So folks, if you've ever been on the parade of homes, you find yourself drooling, imagining the possibilities. You were probably in a Custom One home. These guys are the heavyweights of home. They do build, they do remodel, they do landscaping, high-end houses. These are the kind of houses when they go into the neighborhood, it changes the whole neighborhood. It's good for everyone. And they're there for you if you want to change your space and design your dream. If you want your place to be the place, check out CustomOneHomesMN.com. These are the jaw droppers. This is the real deal, the big fancy houses. Check them out online and learn more. All right, we have a special guest today, the boss man from Unreal. Mr. Michael Jordan. And so what year were you born?
Oh man, let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, what year were you born?
In the room. 93.
So your parents were aware that there was another Michael Jordan when you were born. So let's go through this because it always comes up.
Yep.
Hey, he's the CEO of Unreal. He's making moves, and his name is Michael Jordan. There's always a little speed bump of like, come again? It'd be like being named John Lennon, it's a thing.
Yeah, it'd be like
take us through
it. LeBron James right now. I mean, it's just.
And you go no middle initial.
No, I do. You that was the first mistake. You got to throw the E in there.
So you are like Michael B. Jordan. You are Michael E. Jordan.
So that one really rubbed me the wrong way. I started throwing the E in there, I don't know, 7 years ago.
Before him?
Well, probably not, but he wasn't known at the time. And then it was like within 6 months, he just surfaced and became...
He's like in Creed.
Sexiest man of the year on covers of magazines and stuff. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now I look like I'm copying this guy. And I don't know, man. My mom was in over her head on that one, I think.
How did it go down? So they're the Jordans, and they're like, what should we name them?
So my name was supposed to be Elliot. I was born 2 months premature.
Okay.
So I'm like this tiny little baby infant, and when I'm born, she looks at me and she's like, I think he looks like a Michael. I just love that name. I want to name him Michael. And the nurses are like, lady, you're nuts. You can't do that. and for good reason. And she had some time to think on it because I was in an incubator for like 2 weeks. And during that time, the nurses just took it upon themselves to name me Air Jordan. So that was the name for the first 2 weeks is kind of the running joke, but my incubator literally said Air Jordan on it. And my mom called up her sister, Linda, who's actually in town, by the way. I'm going to see her tonight, but
Hello, Linda.
Hey, Linda. Linda, as the legend goes, Linda says, hey, if you like the name Michael, name the kid Michael. The basketball guy, he'll be a flash in the pan in 10 years from now, and nobody will even remember.
Well, they were dead right about that.
Yeah, she nailed it on that one. And, the rest is history. So Michael E. Jordan it is. And, have you seen that ESPN commercial with it's like a 60-year-old white guy with the name Michael Jordan? Oh, man, it's so good.
Is it a This Is Sports Center?
I think so.
What happens?
Yeah. So the guy, he goes to the restaurants in like downtown New York and reservation for Michael Jordan and
just disappointment everywhere.
Disappointment everywhere. He checks into the hotel and everyone's all excited and like people are poking their heads out of the back room, like waiting for him. And
well, have you ever had any of that then? Have you ever had? Yeah. Like people actually day. Like there are people like, oh
yeah.
Have you met Michael Jordan, the other one, or Michael B?
I haven't, but someone just asked me this yesterday, and I was like, "Gosh, it would be cool to."
Great photo, the three of you.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
But we should try to steal the other MJ, the original MJ from Nike, and bring him over to Unreal. That would be such a just incredible.
That would be an incredible feat.
Have him call Linda to ask if that's a good business decision. Right after she does crypto for us. I love that you went with the E. Jordan. Kind of that's the right move, and you see it with Michael B. So we'll move on from this, but
I need to get like a PR kit out there so that when we start these podcasts, it's like emphasize the E. You need to make sure that that's prominent.
Yeah. I didn't even know that, and I work with you. I will bring the E back into the conversation. Hey, do you consider yourself? I don't know if this is a trick question or not. It's like marry, kill, whatever. So are you an entrepreneur? Are you a CEO or are you a designer? I know you're all of those things, but when you think of yourself, where are you at on that spectrum?
That's a really good question. My initial gut reaction was going to say entrepreneur because when I think of CEO, I think of like a publicly traded Fortune 500 company. Yep. And so I feel like I'm faking it a little bit in that regard, but it was one of those things where it's like, you got to play big a little bit and, in the email signatures. So I think I started doing that when we had like 12 employees and I was like, I'm such a loser, but I just had to roll with it. And
do you use an email signature?
Yeah. I don't have a phone number on it, but yeah.
Yeah. We had a little argument about this in our company because one of the employees was like, everyone has to have an email signature. You got to, it's branding. It's, and I was like, there's certain people you work with in your life where they never have an email signature.
Yeah.
They're kind of like
the biggest ballers don't have it.
Pat Fallon, there's no
just probably signs off PF at the end in lowercase or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, every baller does that.
But I think you're in that same. You can't have an email signature.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that time is coming. But
no phone number is kind of great too because it's like actually a worthress. It's just like here's my logo.
Yeah,
there's no way for you to find me.
It was more of a legitimacy thing for a long time. Like when we trying to play a little bigger than we were back in the day, and. Which I don't know. I haven't thought about it since, but I don't know. Definitely am very hands-on with design. I can't tell you if I'm left or right brained. I think I'm just like very in both. And even when I'm doing like financial reporting and stuff like that and analyzing data, I somehow have like my creative side leaks into that, and my spreadsheets are. Challenge me on that. I don't think anybody's going to have a better spreadsheet. I promise.
You crush the spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet king. Everybody rips on me in the office. I'm such a nerd with that stuff.
It's about money. That's the way it works.
That's where the rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. We like to get into different topics on the pod, but I do think we owe it to our listeners to because I've never really gone through the whole thing with you. I want to hear your story a little bit. So I know it's $300 in your pocket at some point and an idea. You grew up in White Bear. you go to Mankato, but I don't even know if you finish or not. Can you just kind of tell the entrepreneur story?
Yeah.
And I know you've certainly told it before, but we promised to poke and prod you after that. But I think people would like to hear it.
For sure. So going back before the $300 for a second, I was when I finished high school, I had good grades, had good ACT scores. I wanted to, but I didn't know what I wanted to do for college. I was kind of stuck. I wanted to become the best web designer, graphic designer, kind of creative ever, right? So I toured the Art Institute of Minneapolis, and I thought that might be the home until I toured it. And then I realized I've watched way too much Van Wilder growing up and had these crazy, visions of what college was like. And that wasn't it. It was like kids with, green hair, cross-legged in the corner. And I was like, oh man, this is
just like Edina.
You could have bullied them though. So that
could have been the big dog on campus there.
I'm Michael Jordan. And they actually don't know the other Michael Jordan.
That would be true. That would be true.
You don't look the same as him.
The dagger of that one was sitting down to talk to the administrations people and found out it was like $35,000 a year in tuition, and I was broke. And I was like, I don't know. That's not going to happen.
So cost a lot, not as fun as college, and doesn't seem like my people. So then you decided to go to school.
So then I sat back on the couch and didn't know what to do for a little while. I thought, well, why don't I do the business thing? And, I've come this far on the web and graphic design stuff, just doing it on my own, diving into Google, YouTube, whatever to find tutorials. So let's round ourselves out here, go get a business degree. And so I tried to apply at Carlson, U of M, but I was way past the deadline, like 3 or 4 months late on that one. And so then I was just stuck, not knowing what to do. A buddy of mine calls and he's like, hey man, I got an extra room at my apartment in Mankato. I was like, sure, let's do that. Yeah. And so that's how that went.
That's college.
I was vetting it out really seriously. And
you looked at all, you did a SWOT analysis, right? But Cato, I mean, if the Minneapolis Institute of Art is green hair, I mean, there's some togas down in Cato. There's a real college vibe, right?
Oh yeah. That was the Van Wilder I was looking for. I went down for a little tour and it was awesome. So got the partying thing out of my system and, had fun there. But I was midway through my freshman year, I was living in an apartment. We kind of went in, backdoor route and didn't do the dorms. We went to an apartment. But I had 2 roommates, both named Luke, and they were
Skywalker?
Yeah, one of them was.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Linda was involved. She's like, hey, okay, so 2 roommates named Luke.
And they were playing Call of Duty till like the wee hours of the night. And I grew up playing Halo, and I knew the video game scene a little bit. So I'm like, well, I'm up late, midnight. I was doing a design project for, like, I would just scour the internet and find jobs on freelancer.com or Craigslist or whatever. And I found this one happened to be on Craigslist, and turned into it was dye sublimation printing. So like the hat you're wearing, and basically where you can full color print on a garment. And it's, instead of screen print or embroidery, you get a blank canvas. It starts as white fabric and you can just unlimited colors. And I'd never heard of this before, but think of like motocross jerseys or softball jerseys. Yep. That's the deal. So this guy I found needed a catalog of jersey templates for his softball jersey company, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can figure that out. So I'm designing these jerseys, and my roommates come in. They're like, dude, you got to see this. They show me their laptop, and it's these kids standing on stage at a Major League Gaming MLG tournament holding, $100,000 check, the big monster check. And he's like, this is crazy, man. Kids are making 6 figures. I mean, it was shortly after that, 7 figures on video game tournaments. And I'm like, well, let me see that picture again. These kids are all wearing these like jerseys, but it was a screen printed t-shirt with like 10 logos on it. I'm like, might know a better way to do that. So I just quick searched gamingjerseys.com, and nobody had thought of that one yet. So that was the first venture, and bought that domain with like $3 or something, on a GoDaddy promo code, and fired it up. So I went to deliver the catalog to this client that I had found on Craigslist. And I said, hey man, I got here's your catalog, but I got another one for you. I'm going to launch this gaming jerseys business, and I need a manufacturing partner. So you want to go into business together? It'd basically be just like another another sales channel for your existing business, funneling from the front end and same back end deal. And he's like, well, yeah, I offered him 49 and he was like, let's do 50-50. And I was like, okay, sure. I was 18 years old and he's 45. I was just stoked that he wanted to be in business with me. And so that one we fired up and it got super busy. We ended up signing a deal with Major League Gaming, and basically everybody, we were the Nike of video games. So like what they are to the NFL kind of a thing.
It was Unreal, the brand at that time, or was it unbranded?
It was Gaming Jerseys. Was
okay.
The name. So, which in retrospect, it's like, I don't think footballjerseys.com would have worked too well against the Nikes of the world, but it was where it all needed to start.
And are you, at this point, are you still in school or did you bail, or where are you at in your life?
So ran the company from my apartment through the rest of freshman year, halfway through sophomore year, and then dropped out. We flew, MLG flew us down to Dallas and we met with their executives. And I mean, this is a legit operation. It was like the VP that we were walking around touring with was, full suit and tie, like 65-year-old guy. He had just left. He was the VP at Major League Soccer. And he was like, I see more opportunity over here. Like, okay, we're in one here. This is the real deal. And so the way they described it to us was, we want you to do every jersey for our whole organization. So if someone signs up for a tournament, they buy an official jersey through gamingjerseys.com, MLG insignia on it, and then you pay us a royalty for using our logo. I was like, okay, great. This sounds excellent. And the numbers, man, like if you look at the volume that they have of teams signing up for tournaments, look at our conversion rate. And I mean, conversion rate, we even dumbed it down, even though I think it would have gone north because you had to buy the jersey through us. It was $100 million business a year. I mean, it was crazy how big this gaming thing is getting. Now, mind you, that's with no competition yet, really. But then all of a sudden the brands started to pop up, but later after this thing collapsed. But what happened was my partner, the Craigslist partner, decided...
That's the best way to find... I just like, so your career starts with a 45-year-old man on Craigslist. I mean, that's usually... I think that's where Dateline starts. Most of the episodes my wife watches. So that goes sour or something, your partnership?
Yeah. So at this time we signed we're getting ready to sign the deal. I dropped out of college because I had to be full-time in their facility. And... pulls me aside one day. He's like, hey, I want to give you ownership of the other company, the softball hockey jersey company. And I'm like, oh, great. I figured because I was doing a lot of work for that company without getting paid for it. But the kicker on the deal was they wanted to merge the two together. Family members were all involved in that one, and they were a little peeved that we were about to make a ton of money on the gaming side. And so the idea was they own 75 and I have 25, but I do all the work. And
that's usually how it works.
Yeah.
He's like, so that falls apart. This is interesting. You're like into, if you got 9 lives as an entrepreneur, you're into like 2 or 3 and you're super young. So when the dust settles, what are you holding? You're holding a sports brand without the gaming. Is that what you're left with? Or are you just completely back to square one?
Man, so that was some of the best experience I think I've gotten in business because...
Why is that?
Well, I dropped I wasn't even in business school really yet. I'm doing all the generals at Mankato. And when I dropped out and then this happened, the dispute happens. I had to hire an attorney. We went through 8 months of arbitration. It was just like day in and day out, like 8 hours, 9 hours a day in the attorney's office. You deliberate, they go outside the room, deliberate, come back, try to get a resolution. And after 8 months of it, it was kind of like, all right, he's trying to find a way to kind of screw me on this at some way or another. Mm-hmm. And so I just realized there's probably not a light at the end of the tunnel. I should probably just cut my losses, which was super difficult to do because I knew what the upside was on the business, and I was now a college dropout with like 70 grand of debt and living in mom's basement again. And,
stay hot.
Yeah. And not in a great spot when the dust settled there. I was left with the domain name basically and the trademark, I guess. But,
so how do you regroup? How do you turn the corner to the brand you have today, which is?
Well, I kind of analyzed the situation. Like, well, do I go back to school? do I go get a real job and I ended up doing that. I became a real estate appraiser because I had to somehow start paying the attorneys and paying the tuition bill. But I was like, man, I don't know, I'm still pretty young. I want to get back on the horse and do it again. I have $300 in my savings account. I think we can do it. And so it was called up Coop, our boy from Wicker Lake. He's the local embroidery screen print guy at the time.
Derek Cooper.
Yeah. And so I called Coop. I'm like, hey, man, I got $300. I need some hats and T-shirts. What can we do? He's like, come over. We'll figure it out. And because of my past history, I knew how to make a website on a shoestring budget. I knew how to do all the designs and everything. So I didn't need to hire anybody to get the foundation set. I just needed a few hats and T-shirts and sell those, double the money and buy more, and sell those, double the money, buy more. So it's kind of just as bootstrapped as it gets, but that was.
And it was team gear. Because I remember, being in White Bear, when I want to get into the brand in a minute, like how Unreal came about, UNRL. But I remember it was like, this guy makes the cool stuff for your team, right? And at that time, it was a new thought. Like nowadays, I'm sure they have Lululemon team gear, and there's 15 different brands if you're on the right hockey team, right? But at this time, it was basically the old sports shop or new school would be Unreal. And with the Sublimate, you had all these kind of different looks you could do quickly. But so you start in team gear, you're building on your every deal, you're making yourself bigger. When do the 4 letters come into play that end up becoming your brand?
Yeah. So that was the original idea. I wanted to make a lifestyle brand called Unreal because
from the very beginning.
Yeah. I had the idea prior to the gaming jerseys thing falling apart, but I didn't have time to do it. So I just kind of put it on the shelf and, let it sit and collect dust for a while. And then once the whole thing folded, I was like, okay, option A, go back to school. B, get a boring job. Or C, fire up Unreal. Let's pull the dust or blow the dust off of it and see what happens with that.
So where does that idea happen? Because I think, are you doodling those 4 letters? Is that that's how you used to text? Like, how does it happen?
No. So that's okay. So it was UNREAL, and that's the name of the LLC still. We have a DBA for UNRL. Yep. And so I started, the first hats we did, we took like the Titleist font and wrote Unreal spelled all the way out. That was the only cool one that came out, really, because when you put Unreal all the way spelled out on a shirt, it looks
too many
loop-de-loos. Well, yeah, and even in like block letters, it just looks a little like, dude, Unreal, it's not cool. And so I realized that like 2 months in, and I'm like, okay, we need something else. But the essence of the brand is good. I just got to figure out how to do it. And then, I was up all night just kind of doodling, and I'm like, let's just kill the vowels and make it kind of ambiguous. And people will probably pronounce it UNRL. They won't know what it is right away, and that might be good. And so just kind of on a whim, just said, let's change it up, and we'll go to UNRL. And the same logo is still what we use today from 2014 till now. Yeah.
That's great. Hey, I want to make sure if you have something to ask them, because I want to get into some of the lessons you learned. But
no, go ahead, because I got a couple questions, but I'll wait till you. I think that plays into what I'm going to ask.
To put a nail in the coffin on that one, the word Unreal, the reason for the brand name is because every athlete winning a Super Bowl or World Series says that was unreal. They use it to describe kind of the indescribable or best moments in life, and so. Like, gosh, every one of them keeps saying that word. I was sitting in college at my buddy's house watching Sports Center or something. And I heard it 3 times. I'm like, that's the name of the company, man. We got to capture that somehow.
Well, hey, I just want to I'll just do one and we'll get some from Tom. But so we're entrepreneurs as well. We're
we like to think we are.
We're the world's oldest entrepreneurs, perhaps, right? But I would love to know, now that you know what you know, and if you could go back to that kid in Mankato, sitting on the couch, maybe you've got the $300. What would you tell your younger self? And you did a lot of things right, so it's not about course correcting. You're in a really good spot right now with your brand and business. But is there anything you've learned that you might go back and say, hey, man, don't forget this, or make sure you do this? Or is there anything you would tell your younger self?
Man, I feel really blessed, fortunate where we are right now. And I think we've done a lot of things really well. I guess the best advice would just be there's no cutting corners in this game, right? Like you can fake it till you make it, but you can't, you can't half-ass it and just try to get stuff out there and get it to customers and hope it works. We made that mistake a couple times where, it was good enough. The product was just good enough. And we're like, we got to get it, delivered for the event. And those are the ones that backfire on you, and you know it. But I think focus on building a solid team is probably one of the things I would have thought about or put more energy into out of the gates. And I say that kind of with a grain of salt because we have people that joined our team in Mankato when we couldn't even afford to pay them, and they're still with us today, and they're the best, team players we've got. Mm-hmm. So we did a nice job at it, but it wasn't like my core focus at the very beginning was building a team. And, I guess understanding who you are as a brand and sticking to it. I think we did a lot of zigzagging through, when you mentioned the team apparel. But realistically, we were whatever you wanted, we would do it. If it was a bowling league, sure. If it was corporate apparel, you got it. It didn't matter. It was like
because you need that revenue. Money.
Yeah,
to start.
Well, that's how we've kind of approached our business too.
Yeah,
we've kind of said yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Based on how it makes sense. So one of the questions I have for you. So you've obviously done well. You've had some ups and downs, which is important and you're still super young. Mm-hmm. What keeps you up at night? And then the second thing is, do you get to a point, where do you get to a point where you're like, yeah, I figured this out? I'm in, what is your eventual end play? So what keeps you up at night, mm-hmm. and what's your eventual end play with the company?
Yeah. The things that keep me up at night, I would say are just, we're using the term lately, self-inflicted wounds, just, the kind of the shoddy handoffs of internal communication, little hiccups that it's like, man, why didn't we just like write down that process and then hand it to the next person and execute it again, And so it's kind of the silly, mistakes where we're just moving a little. I think we're moving so fast and we have so much coming at us. Like we don't even have an outbound sales team. It's all just inbound, and we have a handful of account managers that are processing it all. But we're so just focused on making sure we do a nice job and we don't drop the ball on the projects that we do take on. But I think me in particular, have a hard time saying no to a great opportunity. And so I think just the thing that keeps me up is worrying about, are we dropping the ball here or there, or, do we follow up with John, or do we make sure everything is buttoned up and going smoothly? And, the second part of the question, how do you know when you've kind of put your flag in the ground? I figured this out. I've mastered it. I would say when I'm not hands-on in the day-to-day across the board of the business, like when the business can run, and right now it can run on its own, but I think my involvement is critical at the moment still to continue to scale and grow. And that's frankly, it's very much okay with me. I really love what I do. And, I'm not in this, I'm not the type of, that's why I struggle with entrepreneur. Am I an entrepreneur? I don't know. I'm not looking to grow it, sell it, to start the next 3 businesses, grow those, sell those. So, I want to build something that lasts forever. So, I don't know. I could see myself doing exactly what I'm doing for a long, long time, but I'd say a few of our departments we have such good people that are running them that I'm very hands off with it. And some of them we're still building that. And so once all, call it 8 departments are really running and firing on all cylinders, I think that's when I would feel like, my involvement is more of an add-on than necessity.
What do you think your employees would say about your leadership style?
That's a good one.
Well, no, because it's amazing. Like they're still with you from Mankato. You obviously got a good handle on a lot of the pieces. You're creative. You understand your spreadsheet's already legendary. Mm. So what would your key people say about you from a leadership style?
I think on the positive side that I really care about the people that we have, and I care about, doing things really well. And hopefully they would say lead by example. On the negative side, I think they would say my expectations are through the roof and impossible to meet. I think we're past the micromanagement stage. That was definitely a problem like 4 years ago, probably. But, I could be better about, I guess, kind of asking people to go figure it out, giving them a little bit of insight, but not telling them how to do it. I think that's one of my flaws for sure. I think that's.
Go ahead if you have another.
Well, no, I mean, the last question, I'll let you finish up here, is what kind of people do you look for to join your company?
Athletes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, we use that term. It's our core values, but we made an acronym out of the word athlete. So it doesn't necessarily mean I played sports, but a lot of the time, I would rather honestly hire people that did play sports seriously and they know how to be competitors than the biggest, bookworm Harvard MBAs. That's not always the case, but I like having people on the team that know how to work as a team, one, and two, they know how to compete and they want to keep getting better and better and they want to win. And I think that gets lost, especially in today's generation, right? I mean, so many people just now there's all these crazy games going on where people aren't showing up to work because of the whole work from home deal or whatever. But I don't know. If you're I just want a job and I want to clock in at 9 and clock out at 5, and I'm probably going to sit in my car for 20 minutes and clock in from the parking lot, you're going to get found out quick at Unreal and it won't work. You're not going to stick around too long. So we want people that are kind of that go-getter hustle mentality and the old school work ethic, and we like to say we take the old school work ethic and we pair it up with the new school mentality of just kind of that work smarter, not harder. And it's been working really well for us. And we started putting that in our job outlines when we are advertising a position. And recently we've had a few people come in and say, that was the reason why I really wanted the job, is because what you said in that outline. I'm like, nice, it worked.
Yeah, that's a great way to weed them out before they get in. I want to get into product before we let you go, because this crossover hoodie you made, man, this is I know you've made some great stuff, but this is a Reese's peanut butter cup that you've invented here. Tom and I have just started wearing these things because you did some merch for Pull Tab Sports.
And we have more people ask us how they can get them.
Really?
So
Great.
I'm going to try to explain it, and then you're going to explain it, and then we're going to get into what you're most excited about next, probably on the golf side. But so this thing, it's got a different hood. So I always tell people what I really like about the crossover is up top, it's kind of tight. That's not the right word, but there's structure in the hoodie. So basically, you feel, for me, it's almost like I get a little Spanx up top that helps me out. And then I got the kind of the weighted blanket of this, the way the collar works. It's like cozy. And I mean, this is just an unbelievable product. And I can say that because, I mean, I don't know how many people have knocked you off between, who knows, Tom Brady, every other brand in the world, because you really did invent a different type of hoodie. And I just like to hear, your quick version of how in the hell that Frankenstein moment happened, and because it is special.
Well, thank you. That was an interesting way of describing it. I like it, but
and sales just plummeted. Once you say man boobs, I think it's over. But yeah, tell us the story.
Well, so I wanted to make a hoodie. Hoodies are just so popular, especially, we came out of the team world, right? Doing a lot of different stuff from amateur youth hockey to the NHL. And I'm like, well, hoodies are great. That's what every team gets when you sign up. And the problem with it though is there's a few things. One, the drawstrings always are flapping around and getting in your face when you're trying to do a workout. So let's fix that part. And then when it's super cold out, your neck is exposed, you're getting cold. I just wanted something that covered those two or addressed those two problems. And then you were describing the fit, I think, this Spanx reference, but
sorry about that.
We like to call it
it's a bad visual, by
athletic fit, but
it's amazing how it feels on.
That was the biggest learning curve, I think, in this whole journey was after I started out buying some generic blank hats and t-shirts and got bored of that a couple months in. I'm like, I'll just make my own. How hard could it be?
Hard.
Yeah. There's the reason people go to school for many, many years to do it. But the internet's a wonderful thing. So we figured that out, and I've spent so much time on the fit that, we do some things that are a little unique, and try to keep it a little more tapered in the chest on a men's, product, but loosen it up across the lower, body. So it's not like a slim fitting European shirt. It's a little different than that. But
and how about that collar? What was the inspiration on kind of the way that thing works?
That was actually Sean Hastings from Strauss gave me a little tip at one point early on. He was like, don't look at the hockey market for inspiration. Look at the ski and snowboarding market. And I'm like, really? It kind of threw me for a loop, but he's like, yeah, I swear everybody follows that. He's a wise guy, by the way. He's super, I think him with the spreadsheets, he might rival me on dialing in numbers. But at any rate, I dove in, started looking at the ski market and realized they do that high neckline on jackets, outerwear. I'm like, well, that would be kind of cool to put it in a hoodie. And then I saw, I don't remember what it was, but I saw something where the hood or the neckline kind of overlapped. And so that was the original sketch. I overlapped the neckline and kind of made it stand up tall, and it wasn't executing at all in the prototyping. And I'm like, screw it. We'll just do one big panel and almost like a cowl neck. I don't know what you'd call it, but and so that worked, and it took a super long time to make it. I mean, I flew to Asia and went literally underground in China and went like, I don't know how many miles, but traveled thousands and thousands of miles and met with so many people searching probably thousands of fabrics until we found the right one. And, there's a lot that goes into these products. And then to your point, of getting ripped off, like that is the biggest. People are like, oh, it's flattery. It's like, no, it's not, man. It's really not for me, because the amount of time and energy that goes into making it, and then you just buy one off our site, ship it to your factory and say, make this one, stitch for stitch, just duplicate it. It's frustrating because there's no protection in this industry.
Which is crazy. Did you know that? So
yeah, like you told me, yeah.
Yeah, but you can make a shoe that looks exactly like an Air Jordan. Now you can't say Air Jordan or put a swoosh on it. That's protected. But I mean, you can just send garments and say, make this for me exactly stitch for stitch the same.
Yeah.
That seems wrong. I guess it would be too complicated to figure out how to handcuff people about what you can and can't make, but that is odd.
It's pretty strange. I mean, I think, with like art and song lyrics and all these things, they're very protected. So it's surprising to me. I don't know necessarily what the reason is. I've done some research, and I think it helps keep things moving faster in the fashion world. But I don't know. It sucks because a lot of our products are not just we're not fast fashion. It's not like H&M. It's the crossover hoodie's been around for, I don't know, 6 years now, I think. And so when we put that kind of time and energy into something, I hope it lasts that long. And then when Barstool got on board with us, it was like Riggs, their golf guy, shows up on Twitter wearing it, and it becomes like the golf hoodie. That was like, I'm not kidding. That was like the impetus for hoodies being big in the golf world, was Riggs wearing it, and then Jake Owens wearing it, and all these, big time guys. And now it's like every golf brand that exists has their own duplication of the crossover hoodie. Some are just like so spot on, exactly the same. So that's, I don't know, kind of frustrating, because the problem is we're not trying to go from, 5 million to 20 million to 100 million. We're well along on that journey, but we're not, I mean, we're kind of going at like a 40% growth rate year over year. Sometimes we double, but it's a little more methodical. We're not trying to raise a bunch of VC money and go, to the big leagues overnight. And I think that's when you really start to make mistakes. So with that kind of strategy in play, it's hard because someone else comes in and rips us off, and they're a bigger name than we are, and
handcuffs you.
Well, yeah, and customers think that they created it, and it's like, shit, Yeah.
No, that's brutal. Hey, so what are you most excited about? Give us one product that, I mean, because in your business, you have to invent things, and the crossover is a great example of doing that. What are you most excited about on the product right now? If you just had to say, this is my new thing, you got to check it out, what would it be?
I've got a couple, but this has been just highly asked for, requested for a long time. Our Apex pant is like it's actually the number one seller over the crossover hoodie. I'm wearing them now. They're phenomenal. Putting golf belt loops and a fly and zipper on those has been a big request from customers. So that's finally coming out this month. Super excited about that. We have a couple different golf pants and golf shorts coming out, and she's kind of getting a little more upscale on that side of things. But
how would you explain the pants? I mean, are they, what would you say? Like, I did a really horrible job of explaining what I love about the crossover. How would you explain the pants?
So it's a performance fabric, and it's a tapered ankle, but it's kind of like it's a hybrid jogger is what I say, but nobody knows what that means. But it's like a dress pant on the front and a mullet in the back kind of a thing.
Yep.
So you can literally pull it off at a wedding. I mean, I've seen guys do it with the Apex pant, going out for dinner with a congressman and wearing a blazer with it. And it's pretty cool. The fact that it's that versatile, where you can wear them like sweatpants or wear them out to a gala. I think I said that word right, but I was.
Yeah, you said it right.
I'm actually going to a gala tonight.
I was just going to jump in, and John, jogging is when you actually start moving.
Okay.
It's just we'll show you later.
Faster than walking.
Yeah. That's what jogging means.
So I'm hearing joggers for guys that don't think they would wear joggers.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
That was actually the reason. Like my dad, he's like,
they're like, hell no.
My dad is
you
like
got cuffs.
Country, like he's the John Dutton from Yellowstone.
Yeah,
very spot on. And he when I made these, he's like, I ain't wearing no skinny pants, joggers. No, not happening. Finally, I kind of forced him to do it, and he calls me up like a week later. I need like 4 more pairs of those pants. They're pretty nice. Okay, send them out my way. He doesn't buy anything. He just shows up and kind of walks in like he's the mayor of the office and takes whatever he wants. It's so funny.
Progress is good, son. Hey, you guys give a lot back. So it's interesting, on the inside of these hats, it says leave a legacy. But that's not just a throwaway for you. As I understand it, about 10% of what you make goes back to community and charities, and which is pretty amazing. That's like Paul Newman style stuff. How did that happen? And has that been rewarding for you?
Absolutely. I think that's probably the most rewarding part, is just seeing what we can do with our platform, and that we can utilize this to make a difference and give back. And so Masonic Children's Hospital is a huge partner of ours. They're kind of our main beneficiary. So we've been working together now for 5-6 years, and that's been a really fun thing, just seeing how you can make a difference, and especially kids that are going through something that I can't even fathom. I mean, having cancer multiple times before you're 12 years old, just crazy scenarios. Or, what I've started to really find a lot of, or get a lot of fulfillment out of, is not just going with a donation, a big check to the hospital and seeing what they do with it, but going right to a family that's struggling, needs some help. Being able to make kind of a big difference for one family instead of, sprinkle the infield and see kind of what happens with that. But it's, I would say my staff probably would 100% agree that it's one of the coolest reasons for working for this company. And, their involvement has been critical. I mean, they jump in and get hands-on with all these. I mean, we just did this warehouse sale last weekend, and I think we did like 60,000 in sales, which was really nice. I mean, it was kind of like all of our obsolete, stuff that was left over from last year. And, that we just donate 100% of the sales. So it's not even there's no profit being kept on that one. And it's, to see my staff jump in and work on the weekends and go, I mean, it was a lot more than just jumping in on the weekend to run it. It was a lot of planning and execution. And so it'll be fun to see what we do with the funds from that, and how we're able to, make a difference. And, so yeah, the Leave a Legacy thing is kind of twofold. It's how do we make a difference in the community, but it's also, kind of what I was talking about earlier. We're not in this to do a quick flip on this company. We want it to really last and stand the test of time. So I think everybody on our team really buys into that.
Well, we hope you do. And Michael Elliott Jordan?
You got it.
Nice. Michael E. Jordan, thanks for being here. I think,
thanks so much.
If you're listening, I mean, what a story. Some adversity there, got standing 8 counts, got to go back, and sometimes you find it, and if you stick with it, you can build it. So check out Unreal if you haven't already. They're one of our own. They're our guys, independent clothing brand crafted around the athlete. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Thank you so much.
E. Jordan. This is Can You Keep a Secret? Peace.